it's Stephanie, and in today's video we are going to be making a resin pyramid. So if you like this video, give us a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos like this one, hit the subscribe button down below. And as usual, if you want to see more videos like this or other videos, just leave it in the comment section down below, and I do take requests. This video was actually requested off of Facebook, so I hope y'all enjoy. Now let's get on to the video. Okay, so as I said in the beginning, I had this mold this pyramid I made that I had posted a picture on Facebook, and I had a few ladies that wanted a tutorial on how to do this. So I decided to make a different one from our vacation that we went on, which we went to the ocean. I live in Texas, but we went to oh, there's my Texas keychain actually. But we went to Corpus Christi, so I collected the shell off the beach of Corpus Christi, as well as some sand. So what we're going to do is we are going to do a tutorial on how to do this mold. I got this mold off of Amazon. It does have inserts. I've had to replace this insert a couple of times, trial and error, because whenever you're pouring a lot of resin, it does get hot and it tends to stick to the mold. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go wash this with soapy water and get it dried off. So what you'll need for this tutorial is whatever glitters you want to use. We are going to be using these extra fine glitters in Sapphire and Caribbean. We're going to be using some sand, this shell, my mold stand, and my mold. And you'll also need some silicone mold release. This is going to help us take this off so that the mold don't get stuck. So like I said, we're going to go wash this and then we'll be back. Okay, so we got our mold cleaned and washed. Now some other things you're going to need. You're going to need some measuring cup. I use 130 ml cup for part A, 130 ml cup for part B. You're going to need a pipette, and I'll show you what to do with that in a little bit. A clear cup, a stirring stick. You probably need several of these for this, but I have one right here and several of these. So I'm going to put those right there, set those to the side. You'll also need your part A and part B of resin. I buy in bulk, so I use these condiment jars to store them. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to give our silicone mold release a good shake. Thin layers, try not to get it on the plastic. Try not to let it build up. And do it in a well ventilated area. So that should be good enough for this mold. You can't really see it in there, but it's a thin layer. Alright, so set that mold aside for a minute. Grab your measuring cups. And I just fill these to the top. Alright, so what I do is I just fill both up to the top. Just make sure that I get even amount so that it don't leave any tacky residue. So there's the first cup. And to distinguish between the two, I mark part A with the marker at the top, but I also, because I've tried marking the side with it, but the permanent marker just comes off, but I also know A is thicker than B with this resin. So just depends on your preference, really, as long as you can tell the difference between the two. Alright, so this is all mixed up and it looks kind of cloudy, but it's not, as you can see. But that's what mixing it too quickly does, especially if it's cold resin. You're better off using warm resin, but I didn't heat that up. So I am going to hit this one more time. Well ventilated area. Okay, so now what we're going to do, we're going to let that settle for a minute because it is very flammable. Alright, so now we got a little bit of the release on the thing. So now I'm just going to grab just a little bit and I'm going to put that down in there like that so it can get that very tip. And since we're not going to put any additives in this one, this is going to be clear, I'm just going to go ahead and pour it in there. And then once that dries up, we'll let it go. This, we're going to let it settle, let the air bubbles rise, and then I'm going to come in and I'm going to hit it with this torch. Now, you don't have to use a torch. You can use a heat gun. I found that with resin like this, it's easier to use the torch. And with cups, it's easier to use the heat gun, unless you're blowing stuff around, which we will be using this heat gun later on in the tutorial, as well as some acrylic paint. So whenever we get to that step, I'll show you, but we got a couple of clear layers to do first. So now what you're going to do is you'll blow that off and just touch the tip of it. You don't want to get the mold too hot and you don't want to get the resin too hot, so you don't leave the torch on it for too long. Just barely hit it, the bubbles will rise. We'll come back and hit it with the torch probably one more time within like 30 minutes to an hour. We're going to let this sit for a few hours. Once it hardens, we'll be back to do the next layer. Okay, so we're back and I am going to do another layer of clear the exact same way we did before. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then we'll let that dry, and I will be back for the next layer after that. But I'm going to do it off camera. This is already pretty solid, so it's time to put the next layer. Alright, so we'll see you whenever I come back for the layer after that. Okay, so we are back, and this is solidified enough to where we can start on the next layer. So I'm going to grab another popsicle stick, and we're going to mix up another layer of clear, and that's going to be the last layer, and then we're going to put some design in. So I'm going to do that, I'm going to pour it, and once that solidifies, I'll be back. So that's 3 layers of clear so far, 60 milliliters. Okay, so we're back, and this is solid now. And so now what we're going to do is we are going to take our resin, and I already have it mixed here. I have the same amount that I've been pouring this whole time. And we are going to set the stick to the side for now. And we are going to slightly start filling this shell. And we're going to leave it about like that. And the reason why we are doing that is because we want to get all the main air bubbles out while we're doing it. So as long as we can do like that. Now we're going to set this like this. And I'll let it drain the way we want it to. And we want it to kind of sit like that in the mold. So now what we're going to do, we're going to grab our stick and our resin, and we are just going to go over the shell, covering it all, making sure we get all the edges of the shell covered. Now this is just going to give us a coat on the shell. This ain't going to cover the shell all the way, but it will give us a solid base for the shell. So now we're going to go ahead and scrape the cup. Scrape the cup. And see how that was a thinner layer because it's getting bigger. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix more. We'll come back and we'll pour another layer on this one. Okay, so we're back. And we're just going to go ahead and pour that right in there. And it will disperse where it needs to. So scrape the cup. A lot of people don't scrape the cup. I do. A lot of people transfer the resin. I don't do that. It's all preference, really. With the resins that I have, it don't seem to have issues mixing or anything like that. So now what I'm going to do, and I do recommend you wear gloves. Of course I am not, and I need to redo my nails. So now we're going to hit it with the torch. We're going to let that sit for a little while. And then I'm going to come back and hit it with the torch. I'm also going to add some tape on these sides right here to kind of tape them back and straighten them up. So let me go wash my hands, get some tape, and I'll be back. Okay, so I am back, and what I'm going to do is I am going to take some tape, and I'm just going to tape down these sides like that. I'm not going to go too far into taping on the inside of the mold. I just want them to be straighter than they are, because as you can see, this mold is bubbling quite a bit. So we're gonna take some tape and try to bring these sides out a little bit more. Okay, so now I'm going to take my stirring stick, put the shell back where I want it. There's fine. Take my gun, blast it a couple of times. That got most of the bubbles out, and so now I'm going to let this cure, and I'll be back. Okay, so now we got 200 milliliters of clear resin here, and this is already cured, or you know, at the point to where I can add more. It's cooled down, it's not hot no more. So now we're just gonna add as much of this as we need. We don't want to make the layers too thick, so we just gotta watch where we put it, and I think that's perfect right there. So we're gonna scrape the container. And this will be our last layer of clear, it looks like. So we're gonna go ahead and let the bubbles rise. We'll hit this with the torch, and then when we come back, we'll mix the next layer that we're gonna do, and add a little bit more design in as far as like the water and the sand goes. So we're gonna set that to the side. Go ahead and hit that with the torch. It will rise a little bit more. I'll hit it with the torch again. We're going to go ahead and take the tape off, because as you can see, it's not really doing any good anyhow. So we'll take the tape off, and we will just go from there. So let it sit for a little while, and I'll keep hitting it with the torch, try to get all the bubbles out, and then we'll come back and do the next layer. Okay, so we are back, and I got a little bit of resin in the cup, probably about 10 ml right here, and this is still curing. So what we're gonna do is, well, we are going to go ahead and add our sea foam in the top. So we got some white titanium acrylic paint. This is Master's Touch. I just got it from Michael's, and we're gonna just put just a tiny little bit in this resin in here, and we're gonna mix it up. going to just drape it through it right here and cause a little bit of sea foam right here, just like that. And that's all we're doing right now. Okay, that shall work. And we'll come back and we'll do the next layer. Okay, so we're here. This is ready for the next step. And so I got 2 cups here that I'm going to mix up. And then one we're going to put sand in. The other one we're going to put aquamarine. And then 2 glitters. So I'm going to do that. And the glitters we're using are the ones I showed in the front. So I'm going to do that, and then I'll come back and we will pour. Now what we're going to do, we're going to grab each cup, and to make it a little bit easier so I'm not grabbing sticks from both sides, we're going to go ahead and set the stick right there, and this stick I'll just leave in there. And so we're going to so I'm going to set that one down, and I'm going to scrape the sand out of this one. Okay, and then we're going to take this one right here, and we're also gonna put this a little bit more like this and go ahead and scrape this out. Now this ain't the end of it. We're not quite done yet. We are going to take the sand, and I might just do it like this. And that's going to push that water back a little bit. And we'll twirl that in there to get it all resiny, just like that. But we want to push back a little bit on that water. Just like that. And so I'll push back on that water a little bit. We'll take this and mix it in. That way it's not, and if it comes over the top a little bit, that's fine, but we want that sand covered in resin, so we can cover it just like that. Looks like we got it all covered. Go ahead and let that blue just seep on through there. So we got the sand there, so the sand will be showing. Okay. So we're going to let that solidify and become what it's going to be. And then we'll be back, and whenever we come back we'll wipe off the mold, but we're not going to wipe it off quite yet. So we'll let that go. Go ahead and cover back up our sand, and we'll be back. Alright, so the final layer is dry, and now it's time to demold it. You could keep on going with different layers, like if you wanted to add more. I decided to leave mine like this because I don't want to add more layers. I just want the sand and the water. So there you have it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a razor knife and go around the edge and clean that up. And this is going to be a personal one. It's not going to be for anybody else. As you can see, my mold went a little wonky. And in order to fix that, you just tape it down from the get-go. And don't pour too much resin at once. So, yeah. But there you have it. That's how you do a pyramid. So if you like this video, give us a thumbs up. If you want to see more tutorials like this one, hit the subscribe button down below. And as usual, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.